Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for joining us. We will get started in just a few moments as we are waiting for everyone to log in.
Hello.
Hi, we're just waiting a few moments to waiting for everybody to log in and we'll get started. We're just going to give it just a few more moments as we're waiting for everyone to log in. Okay, once again, thank you for joining us this afternoon as we kick off the wildfire insurance conversation. We will go over a few housekeeping rules for today. We will have audio and visual chat that will be monitored and recorded. This event is being streamed live on Facebook at InsuranceCA.gov, and by default, all participants will be muted and video is disabled. Video will be on for speakers only. For today's conversation, Commissioner Lara will be joined by Assembly Member Lisa Calderon, providing welcome remarks. I would like to, at this moment, thank you all of you who submitted your questions prior to the event. Our hope is that through the conversations, your questions will be answered. But if we did not address your particular question, you can contact Assembly Member Lisa Calderon's office or the Department of Insurance directly by chat at insuranceca.gov or by calling 1-800-927-4357. The wildfire insurance conversation is being recorded, and we will email the recording and informational materials discussed by Commissioner Lara after the event. The recording will also be available on the Department of Insurance Facebook page. Now, at this time, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Assembly Member Lisa Calderon. She was elected in November 2020 to represent the 56th Assembly District, which includes cities and unincorporated communities in Southeast Los Angeles and the San Gabriel Valley. She serves as the chair of the Committee on Insurance and as a member of the Assembly Committees on Emergency Management, Utilities, and Energy, and Appropriations, among others. She is also a commissioner on the California Commission on the Status of Women and Girls, on a board member of the NALEO Education Fund. During her time as chair of the Assembly Committee on Insurance, she has established herself as a steady and thoughtful leader in the insurance space. Her commitment has held informational hearings to assess trends and prevalent issues affecting California's insurance market, including progress on CDI's sustainable insurance strategy. Welcome, Assembly Member Lisa Calderon. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Brenda, and good evening, everyone. I'm so pleased that you could join us here tonight. I'm Lisa Calderon, and I represent the 56th Assembly District, which is communities from Southeast Los Angeles County all the way into the San Gabriel Valley. So I want to welcome you to this town hall on wildfire insurance, co-hosted with our insurance commissioner, Ricardo Lara. As chair of the Assembly Insurance Committee, I've had several informational hearings across the state on the issues affecting the insurance market in California. And as we know, the status quo for our constituents is not sustainable. The California insurance market was built on keeping insurance rates fair and affordable while also maintaining a competitive market. When these goals were solidified decades ago, they didn't account for the environment that we're currently in today. And homeowners should not be utilizing the FAIR plan as the insurer of first resort. Yet it seems our current market has Californians turning to this safety net. So our constituents need options. They want and need stability. They don't want to live in fear of being non-renewed. So our goal today is to have an open dialogue about the state of California's insurance market. And I hope that you at home can learn more. And if we're not able to address your questions tonight, please know that a representative will be in touch with you to provide answers. So Ricardo Lara has been a relentless advocate for all Californians throughout his career in public service. As a leader in the state legislature and now as California's insurance commissioner, Ricardo has focused on helping those most in need by addressing historical and systemic inequities and challenging the status quo. As California's insurance regulator, he safeguards the integrity of the second largest insurance market in the world. Part of his role as insurance commissioner is to be a bridge for state consumers, helping communities understand their insurance options, challenges, and hearing their concerns in person. So we look forward to hearing more about his solutions to insurance issues tonight. And I'd like to give a big welcome to California Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara.
Assemblywoman, how are you? Thank you for the invitation. It's great to see you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I know how busy you are.
Oh, and you survived end of session.
Barely.
Right.
So good to see you.
Likewise. So I figured I'll give a kind of summary introduction of where we're at in terms of the market, and then you and I are going to have a little chat.
Sure, that sounds great.
The tough questions, as a insurance assemblywoman committee, as you should. Thank you again. We really appreciate us working with you, and thank you to everybody who's on, and good evening. I have a special place in my heart for the Assemblywoman's District. I grew up in East Los Angeles, right next door. And so I know the district very well, but I also know there's so many people that are logging in from all over the state, because our responsibility really is for the state of California as the chairwoman of the Assembly Committee on Insurance and as the insurance commissioner. And let me just give you some hard truths of what we're living. Wildfires are a risk for some people, but it's also happening in very urban areas like never before in California. Heat waves like the one we're experiencing right now in Southern California, that is the forecast for this week, are a growing threat, and heat waves are actually the #1 killer of human beings. And with climate change, flooding, and winter storms are also becoming now a bigger problem. So we always have questions, and I know we have some questions about auto insurance and what's happening there, and really fighting insurance fraud, which I know the Assemblywoman and I often talk about. So why don't I start by talking about the #1 issue and question that we both get, which is the property insurance crisis, because a lot of people are really feeling it, as you mentioned that. The insurance crisis is really caused by outdated regulations and really decades-long neglected issues. Our climate is changing and has been changing for many years, impacting, of course, every aspect of our lives, including insurance, not just in California, but actually globally, as we're seeing now some fires around Greece and record fires around Australia, Portugal, even in Alaska. We've seen the devastating fires in New Mexico. So just to give you and give you the recent data now, CAL FIRE has responded to more than 5,000 wildfires in 2024. That's nearly 1,000 more than we've had at this time. And so these are very sobering statistics, But, we have a plan. So I don't want to just be all doom and gloom this evening, but I want to level set. And we aren't even through the worst of the fire season yet. And that's just around the corner. So that's the reality we're dealing with. Assemblywoman Calderon, I have to say, you've been a great partner in the legislature on helping us address these issues. And we're all working together to come to some sort of resolution from the availability of insurance. And in my position, I'm the current insurance commissioner. Of course, we have the world insurance crisis that's uniquely affecting California, which is the largest market in the country, fourth in the world. And so I own the problem, and I'm going to fix it. And I'm making California's largest insurance reforms in more than 30 years. As we dug into why insurance companies are either leaving or contracting their business, is that because we've also had we've had some outdated rules and regulations that don't allow insurance companies to innovate and don't give us as a department the tools that we need to make sure that your rates are appropriately priced to the home hardening that you're actually doing. And, these outdated rules with insurance companies increasing their rates legally, I might add, but they're not writing more policies. And that is the problem. California still has the lowest rates on average than many states with major climate risks, including Texas and Florida. But I know for some people, they can't find insurance at any price except from the California Fair Plan. Others are losing coverage when they've never even had a claim. And so we have to make insurance more available, which is what we are going to be working on, which eventually make it more affordable. So it's also clear to say that unlike public and private utilities, insurance companies are not legally obligated to provide coverage to everyone. We've tried this route and we've lost in court various commissioners ago. That is the limit of Prop 103 and a problem that my sustainable insurance strategy is working to fix. Under the agreement that I reached, a historic agreement, I should say, with insurance companies last year, they are now going to cover 85% of properties in wildfire distressed areas, while additionally removing policies from the FAIR Plan. So essentially, they're going to go back into these communities and they're going to take the properties out of the FAIR Plan, which is what we want to stabilize our market. This is why this agreement is not only historic in nature, but it is getting companies to come back to these communities and back to our state. So we need to make our market competitive again. So they are fighting for your business. And we're on track to implement all these changes that Assemblymember Calderon knows extensively about, because we have many of late night calls. We're going to get that done by December 2024. So insurance companies can start writing more policies in all these areas next year. So that's how we're going to track. People ask me, when are we going to start seeing some relief? Hopefully by mid-2025, you are going to see insurance companies competing for your business again. You're going to see policies and homes being taken out of the FAIR Plan. And we know this is going to work because Allstate has already said that they're going to start writing new policies again across the state when our reforms are in place. Allstate is important because it's one of the biggest companies, and that's good news. Farmers, which is the second largest homeowners, is now a homeowners and commercial writer, I should say, has already reopened its condo and apartment coverage, which is also important for our businesses. And once again, we have these reforms in place. More companies are going to come back to our market and actually stay. I want to transition quickly to heat waves because it is so critical, and especially for those of us living in Southern California. Wildfires are not the only climate change that is getting worse. Los Angeles has a major heat forecast this week. It could be as hot as 115 degrees in some areas. Although these are temperatures that are more seen in Phoenix, this is new to us in California and in Southern California. And extreme heat is a silent killer that has been ignored for far too long in the insurance conversation. Heat waves are the deadliest natural disaster by far, more than flooding and actual wildfires in California. They affect our seniors, our very young, our outdoor and warehouse workers, and those with conditions like asthma or heart illness. Yet the cost of heat waves are largely invisible, and many of these are not covered by insurance. So we are working to change that. I sponsored an important new law that will create California's first heat ranking and early warning system, the first in our nation, that will be up and running next year. And part of this law, my department just issued a report analyzing the recent heat waves in California. And what we found is that there are major uninsured costs for health insurance. There's major losses for economic activity, for farming and local governments. Extreme heat events are only going to get worse, lasting longer with higher temperatures. So we're working on long-term solutions to help local communities prepare with such innovation like community-wide insurance that can pay out when the heat wave is at a certain forecast, so that the city can scale up quickly and keep people safe. You know, I always joke with the Assemblywoman that I grew up in East LA without air conditioning, and for us, a heat wave meant we slept outside. But when it doesn't cool off at night, you can't get any relief, and that's where it becomes very dangerous for human health. So this is why it's critical for us to address these issues. In September that we're living in now, this year is going by so quickly, is National Preparedness Month. And one of the things we all need to prepare for is for flooding and winter storms. You know, we had a hurricane in Montebello. The insurance protection gap for floods is huge. Most people do not realize that their homeowner's insurance does not cover flood. You have to buy a separate policy for flood damage. Only 2% of homes and other buildings in California have flood insurance. That means most flood damage is not going to be covered by insurance. Yet every county in the state has experienced a flooding emergency in the past 30 years. We've seen what just happened in Pajaro. We've seen what's happened in other parts in California. If we have a major winter storm and there are major flooding risks right here in the Assemblywoman's district, with the San Gabriel Valley River watershed, with the communities below the Whittier Narrows Dam, for example. These are all communities across the state that have historically been ignored, underserved, and face similar threats, and we need to change that. And without insurance, the financial costs for flooding and other climate impacts is going to fall hardest on who? The neighbors like you and I, and those of us that cannot afford. So while wealthy communities are going to be able to recover, our low-income communities and working-class communities are going to fall further behind. So I'm working on new approaches to protect entire communities, and part of that is enhancing our natural protections and creating some more additional products that we're going to be talking in the near future with the Assemblywoman around parametric insurance products. Before I conclude and get into the questions, I want to talk about auto insurance. Just quickly, I want to switch gears to talk about the importance, and we've seen some rate increases around auto insurance as well. In my job, I oversee, again, I said, the nation's largest auto insurance market, as well as the largest homeowners insurance market. Well, you know, we all remember when COVID was happening, the costs were decreasing because people were driving less. We saw less people on the roads, less accidents, and I ordered insurance premiums to be returned to drivers from insurance companies. My action returned $2.6 billion back to drivers because they were being charged, even though we were asking them to stay home. So, you know, we wanted people to stay home, but the insurance companies were still charging them as if they were driving every day to work. That wasn't fair. And so I hope many of you got some money back from your policies. Now, you know, now times have changed. People are back to driving. The cost of repairs are increasing. People are driving faster. The severity of accidents is getting worse. And we've all seen it. We're all on the roads now in LA in particular, and it's happening nationally. Insurance companies have been increasing their rates throughout their entire book of business. And some people haven't seen these rate increases in their auto policies in years and are now having to reevaluate options. So here are some things that I want you to look at. If you've gotten a rate increase, or you're having, you know, or you're struggling finding auto insurance, first, I have to remind you, we have the nation's most competitive market in auto insurance. And so if you're a good driver, they have to write you a policy at a reduced price So it pays to shop around and compare prices. We have tools on our website that I'll have staff put on the chat. California has a good driver law requiring insurance companies to write you a policy if you have a safe driving record, and they are required to give you a discount. And if you're driving less, make sure to update your annual mileage with your insurance company so that they can reduce the risk of your policy and you could pay less. Some companies also offer a pay-as-you-go pricing. So this could help save you if you drive less, or you just drive from work, from home, or have a second car that you don't use often, or you're a senior that you just, you go to get your meds, go to the grocery and come back home. A pay-as-you-go option is maybe something that's more important that can help you lower the cost. So finally, new drivers in California may be eligible again for the low-cost auto insurance program. It's a very cost-effective coverage for you. It's designed to provide people who qualify with liability-only insurance protection, and it's really at an affordable rate as a way to meet the California's financial responsibilities. I think if you have a good driving record and meet the income requirements, your rate can be as low as $266, I believe, for the entire year. So please visit our website. I'll have staff put the website for the low-cost auto program as well. And lastly, I just want to talk about fraud. As the Assemblywoman and I have been fighting insurance fraud for many years. My department is the lead state investigator for insurance fraud, which costs business and consumers tens of millions of dollars each year. This is not a victimless crime. When small businesses are left without coverage, it puts their entire business at risk. When workers are injured on the job and they don't have coverage, it puts them at risk. We also work with the LA District Attorney and the Labor Commissioner to stop. We recently just did this. We stopped a company in El Monte that was stealing from its workers and falsifying records to commit workers' comp insurance fraud. In another case last year, we restored hundreds of thousands of dollars in back pay that was owed to janitors because of the fraud that we uncovered. If you suspect any type of if you suspect that you're a victim of fraud, or anybody in your family or in your community, you can contact us. We'll put that number on the web on the chat as well. And people don't know that we currently employ over 200 sworn officers to detect, investigate, and respond to insurance fraud. And so, I'm also working with our Assemblywoman. As you should know, we worked on a crucial bill to make sure that we pay our actual investigators, that we give them some pay parity. As a reason, many of them are leaving our department to go to other state and local law enforcement agencies. And so the Assemblywoman sponsored a bill to fix this, and we got it to the governor. So now we're going to work with the governor to sign it. So look, I know these conversations are tough about insurance, and we're living during a very tumultuous time and in the midst of this insurance crisis, but we can't afford to be afraid. We have to be asking the questions. I want you to, if anything you get from today, is call our insurance experts. You can reach us at insurance.ca.gov, or we can chat live with you. We can file a complaint or speak to somebody directly. We'll help you understand your policy. If you get non-renewed, if you don't understand a letter you got from the insurance company, we have live insurance experts that are on call Monday through Friday to be on your side. That's what we do, and that's what they do every day. So you don't have to go at this alone. If you need help finding a broker, an insurance agent, or you just have a question around, is this person legit? We can figure all that out for you. So I know I rambled on a lot of Assemblywoman, but there's a lot to talk about, but I welcome your questions. Thank you again for giving me this time and space.
Thank you so much, Insurance Commissioner Lara. This is so helpful, and you touched on many, many subjects. So I think that our audience will greatly appreciate, you didn't ramble, by the way, everything that you said. And just also want to thank your team, because they have been such a great resource to us. And I know that they will be to my constituents as well. So if it's okay, I'm going to ask you some of the questions that were pre-submitted from our constituents. So you touched on the FAIR plan. And so one of the questions we received was, how do constituents that are on the FAIR plan go about moving back into the regular insurance market?
So that's a great question. And, the FAIR plan is our insurer of last resort. But what we have been seeing is that because insurance companies are cutting back their footprint, they're sending more folks to the FAIR plan. So the answer here really is, we are working to modernize the FAIR plan. That's a crucial step in our strategy to stabilize California's insurance market. The FAIR plan will write you a coverage if nobody else would, but it's very limited and a higher cost. So yes, I have to say the FAIR plan is solvent and it's not going, it's not any solvency issues in 30 years, but it's critical for Californians to understand that a growing FAIR plan really contributes to the insurance crisis. So what I would say as part of this negotiation has been, if we're gonna release those homes from the FAIR plan back into the insurance market. Insurance companies are gonna be fighting for which homes? Clearly the ones that are fully mitigated already. They're gonna be cherry picking those first because they're gonna want to take the least riskiest homes first. And we already have a list of those properties that are fully mitigated. So I would tell Californians, do not skimp on fortifying your home, following the Safer from Wildfires mitigation program that we've set up. And by the beginning of next year, you're going to start seeing insurance companies coming and taking these properties out because one, we need to take properties out of the FAIR plan, and they're going to be they want to cherry pick the ones that are the least as possible as risky. So I would say invest the resources. We're working again with the Assemblywoman and with the legislature to get more money so that consumers can have tax breaks. We're working with the federal government with the Mike Thompson bill that gives up to $10,000 for you to replace your roof and make it safer from wildfires. So there's a lot of programs that we're going to be working on, records amount of money. Take advantage of that. And if you have any questions, again, feel free to call the Assemblywoman or my office.
Thank you. Thank you. And so the next question is, how do homeowners know what insurance discounts are available to them? Is that information that they can find on your website, or where could we direct them?
Absolutely. This is important. I would first start with calling your individual company and say, what are the, for my type of policy, what are the discounts that I qualify for? And if you don't get an answer, which I really doubt because it's law now, we made that a law a couple of years ago. And if not, give us a call. We can help look at your policy, look at what company you have, and then we can actually even help you also make the call so that you understand what discounts you're entitled to and what mitigation you've already done for your home. That's why it's also important, and it's a tip that I always say. I know nobody wants to call their agent. I know nobody wants to call their broker. You want to sign your policy, forget about it, and move on with your life. But when you do when you do mitigation around your property, it is critical that you update your policy so that they understand, one, that you're being responsible, two, that your mitigation discounts are going to kick in now, and that it is by law, and it incentivizes good behavior. One of the things that we've seen is that if your neighbor sees you doing the mitigation, it creates a trickle effect, and that's what we want. We want community-wide mitigation, so the entire community has access to these discounts, bringing down the risk and keeping insurers written. And by the way, I know we just put the Safer from Wildfires framework in the chat. We actually put that together with all the insurance companies and their trade groups, fire experts, so you're not replicating the wheel. This is what insurance companies said you need to do to bring down your risk, which you'll qualify for that discount. So we didn't work in a vacuum. We all worked together to come to this consensus because we wanted to make it as easy as possible for consumers to understand. Because, Assemblywoman, there's like county rules, city rules, state rules. Now there's federal. So we made that all easy for you. So that hopefully you're just one click away from understanding. And of course, if you still don't have trouble, really understanding what we're doing here, give us a call. We'll make sure we have somebody to help you.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And the next question is, how would a consumer know if they live in a high fire risk area? Is it based on zip code or what is it based on?
Well, there's some CAL FIRE maps, but you will know because you're going to get a fire risk score from your insurance company that determines the amount of risk you have for wildfire. And that is often used as a way to non-renew people. And back in the day, they would just send you a risk score and say, oops, we can't renew you because your fire risk score is X. And they never gave you an opportunity to call anybody. They never told you how they came up with that rationale. They never gave you any opportunity to mitigate your property to bring down that score or to say, hey, this is incorrect. You're using an old map that doesn't reflect, one, the mitigation that we've done, or even the property size, or what we've done in the perimeter. So that is something that I kept hearing over and over again. So we quickly worked on a new law and a new regulation in my department to mandate that insurance companies, one, have to give you your fire risk score, give you an opportunity to, one, mitigate to bring down your risk, give you an opportunity to appeal that score, to say, wait a minute, this is not right. This is not my property. And then also we're going to get that data so that we can share it with our local governments so that they also understand and help us understand if these non-renewals are happening in certain areas and why is that happening, so that we also start looking at mitigation through a community-wide kind of lens and not just leave it up to you. And so those are rights that you have now. That's a law that I created a couple of years ago. So you have access and time to mitigate your property. You can mandate that they give you time so that you bring down your score, and then you can appeal it. These are all things that you could never do before. So you have that right now. Again, if you get a non-renewal notice, or if you get a fire risk score that you think is inaccurate, as an insurance company prepares to drop you, call us. We can review that letter and make those calls on your behalf as well.
Thank you. That's so helpful. That's great information. You mentioned earlier in your remarks, how California compares to other states. You mentioned, I think, Florida and Texas and some of the events they're seeing there. But since California is so big in terms of insurance costs and natural disasters, how does that affect our insurance market? And when you look at it through the lens of climate change?
Yeah, we're all connected with insurance, right? I mean, it's like this is a global phenomenon. And of course, California, among other big states, are going to feel it first because we're the largest, more complex market. So, literally it's that saying that says, if the world gets sick, California catches the cold first, right? So we are starting to show the symptoms of what other parts of the country are going to already showing, and what's happening, quite frankly, around the world. And so the issue is not that insurance companies are hesitant to come into the market in California. It's that we're not appropriately pricing that risk. And if we in a department lag a year or two to approve a rate for a specific risk, well, we know not everything changes within a year or 2 years. And so the risk keeps growing and the rate stays the same. So you have this protection gap here that never closes. And so what happens is insurance companies can no longer take in that much risk, because guess what? I also mandate them to make sure they have enough revenue to pay out 100% of their claims of their entire portfolio in a given year, given if there's a massive earthquake, a mega fire, the fires that we've never seen, and it affects 100% of a company's portfolio, well, they need to pay all that out, right? And so because of that, insurance companies are starting to hesitate in terms of, I'm not going to come in entirely into California. I need to reduce my footprint because of all these consumer protections that we rightfully have. And so what we need to do is make sure that insurance companies, when they apply for the rate, they have some sort of certainty that we make sure that we review them, make sure that they're not discriminatory, that they're actuarially sound, that they pass muster, because we want to make sure, right? And we have an entire department that does that, but that we do that so that we're sending the appropriate market signals so that the insurance company no longer is afraid to grow their business, because they're going to understand that as the risk is growing, we're going to price it accordingly. And that also works for home mitigation, right? Right now, if you've done all the mitigation in your property in a wildfire area, your rate is not appropriately assessed because we have no way of seeing that and holding the insurance companies accountable. This is why allowing for the use of these technologies that we weren't using, that we weren't allowing before, which blows my mind that in California, we're not allowing insurance companies to use technology to help us futurecast where we're going to be more at risk. I mean, we're California. This is one of the things where I was like, why haven't we done this 30 years ago? So we're quickly moving to do that. So one, we're going to be able to price risk. If you've done the home hardening, we're going to be able to get that data and be like, you know what, Mr. Smith's rate is inappropriate because it's not taking into account all the mitigation. We'll be able to see that. And also the insurance companies are going to be able to work with us to see where are we going to be most at risk and looking at future trends around not just fire, but flood, atmospheric rivers, sea level rise, all the wonderful things that we live with in California. So, we are a risky place to live, but that's the price we pay for living in such a beautiful part of the world.
That's so true. And you mentioned that there was it a tornado in Montebello, I think last year, I think that's unheard of. I don't know if there's ever been a tornado in East LA. So, and that's something too. I don't even know how if that's covered or, but it did a lot of damage. I remember seeing it in
we worked with the business that was affected. But again, it's really we have to be crafty and we have to be creative with these policies, because some of these policies are so locked in. And this is why it's important for our business owners to understand what their workers' comp rights are, what their policy looks like. Or, like in this case in Montebello, we went to figure out, okay, are you covered for something like this? And if you're not, can the water damage from the hurricane then qualify to trigger your policy? So see, there's little things that we could work on that that consumers may not know, and that insurance companies rely on you not knowing so that they can deny your claim.
Well, I appreciate you and your department working on this, because it's important for consumers to know what their options are. And I think earlier you mentioned I think 2% of Californians have flood insurance. A lot of people don't even know that, as you mentioned, but also I think they have to go somewhere that like is that a federal policy?
It is. It's the National Flood Insurance Program. And this is why, many people ask us, well, why can't we create a government-run insurance program? Why can't, we've already seen what happened after the Northridge earthquake. The legislature and the department at the time came in to try to mandate insurance coverage for earthquakes. Well, insurance is a private business. You know what they did? They lifted up their arms and they're like, we're no longer writing insurance for earthquake. That's what happened in the East Coast with floods. And so we're left with government-run agencies, right? And thank God we have the California Earthquake Authority that is working day and night to protect Californians and provide earthquake coverage. But it's a government program that we need to offset again with some private insurance products so that we're hitting both sides of the market. And the National Flood Insurance Program, the limits haven't been updated. The cost hasn't been adjusted. And it's a program that is so outdated that there's a reason why only 2% of Californians have flood insurance. The next massive flood we get, people are essentially on their own. And this is why the hearing you and I are going to have around parametric products is critical, because that's going to provide at least a minimum safety net for our most vulnerable, so that everybody can be able to evacuate after a flood and not have to stay in a home with water, which not only complicates the integrity of the structure, but human health. And so, and it's just human behavior, right? If we're going to have 119-degree weather, nobody's thinking about flood until it actually happens. So, I know I hate to be the bearer of bad news for folks, but I'm no longer the cool guy at the party. I'm always just talking about the next peril, but that is the job.
No, but we appreciate you. These are things that we all should be thinking of. And I think, you see how many people have signed up to be here tonight. And so insurance is definitely top of mind for many of my constituents. And so we appreciate it. It's not all doom and gloom, because I know how hard you've been working the last 2 years. And, I think that we're looking forward to our next hearing in this month, actually in a couple of weeks. And you've been very good about coming every 3 months when we invite you to give us an update on the sustainable insurance strategy, and we greatly appreciate that. So I have just
I just want to have like these honest conversations, I mean, it's like we're working really hard. You and I are doing the hard work of making sure Californians protect their most precious investment. And that means, sometimes we have these kind of tough conversations, but that's our goal for you and I, is to make sure that our consumers, your constituents, are prepared. And if you're gonna take on such a large investment, which is what you need to build wealth and for the next generation, is that you protect it accordingly, so that you're not, you don't become a victim of fraud or not appropriately covered, so that you can protect that investment. And that's why, again, feel free to call us. We have people who could speak any language, in the whatever language you feel comfortable in, to help you explain these situations, because insurance is complicated. Lisa, I'm sorry, Assemblywoman and I always talk about how we're also continuing to learn about insurance and the new products that are out there, new technologies and tools that we need to use. And so we're all learning at this together. And so there's no wrong answer or question.
So I just have one more question, because I'm going through the questions and you've touched on all of them and answered them in some way. So one of our constituents asks, why aren't we more proactive on controlled burns and thinning of fuel to minimize fire risk?
Whoever that person is, give them an A. Put them a star on the chalkboard, like I used to get, not all the times, but once in a while. This is, again, another example of how we have changed the landscape in the entire Western hemisphere of our country. We had a meeting in Oregon a couple years ago with all the insurance commissioners from the Western states. And just the fact that we abandoned prescribed burning, that we abandoned, controlled fires. So in areas, literally, they showed us satellites. Maybe we could get the U.S. Geological Service to come and do that for the Assembly Insurance Committee. So you could see where once existed valleys, when natural fires occurred, and those valleys became natural fuel breaks because of us fighting the fire. We've created, now it's just full of trees. So there's no natural fuel break for fires to stop themselves. Fires have always existed, as you know. So now we're finally getting back. Thank you to your leadership and the legislature. We put some money aside to promote prescribed burns. I've actually been up with our Native American population. Another thing that we should maybe do with some of our members, so that you can actually see and how they do the ceremonial burns and how they use every part of what they've burned for their community, but also they understand that it's critical and important. And so we have to get back to essentially what Native Americans have been doing for millennia, is doing these prescribed burns, learning how to live with fire, so that we're restoring back the natural ecosystem with these natural fuel breaks, because we can't fight fires. We've already lost that battle. And as the climate continues to get warmer, this is only going to happen more and more. And this is why we need to go back to some of those traditional practices. And then my job is to make sure that we find insurance companies that cover these prescribed burns, because that's also a bit risky, as we're starting to learn about how do we control these burns. The biggest fire that happened in New Mexico started with a controlled burn, but that should have never happened during that time of the year. The winds picked up and the two fires merged. So again, this is why working with our Native American community, working with fire experts, with our fire chiefs, they know what's best, so that we can return the natural biosystem to what it was back in the day with those natural valleys. So we hear you. We're late to this game. We should have been doing it a long time ago. And this is why sometimes I get frustrated when, I come in as insurance commissioner and I think, we haven't done that yet. Like it makes no sense. So here we are. We own the problem, Assemblywoman, you and I, and we're gonna get it done.
Well, thank you so much, Insurance Commissioner. Very grateful for your time today, and you provided so much insight that it's been helpful, not only to me, but I know my constituents, and, we're really excited about the work you're doing. And, I'm really encouraged, and I remain really optimistic that the insurance market's going to stabilize. And we look forward to continuing to work with you. And again, I want to thank your staff and my staff, who I think is on this call, because I think we can't do the work that we do if we didn't have the support from them. They really make sure that the wheels keep turning. And I want to thank all my constituents for being here. And if you want to come back to this presentation, it'll be posted on my office website for additional viewing. And again, please reach out to my office or the commissioner's staff, his office, his website, for more information.
Thank you again, Assemblywoman. Great
Thank
to see you.
you.
And hopefully we get a cheeseburger special at John's Burgers right there on Whittier in Montebello.
I'll have to meet you there. It's too hot right now, though.
I know it's too hot right now. And we're staying indoors.
Thank
Thank
you.
you again. Appreciate your time.
Okay. Bye-bye.